Hang on, it's not working on. There we go. All right, so this is our story, Walking on Water, from our Spark Story Bible. So if you have it at home, you can follow along. Otherwise, go ahead and just listen. And this is our story about the disciples and Jesus. It says the disciples were just waking up on their boat. They had been out on the water all night. Yawn, stretch. It was so early. The sun wasn't even up yet. Andrew rubbed his eyes and looked into the fog. Hey, he whispered, do you see what I see? Oh, it's a ghost, James cried out in fear. The disciples were shaking in their sandals. They were terrified. Through the fog, they could see the outline of a person walking on the water. It was Jesus. Don't be afraid. It's just me, Jesus said. He waved a friendly hello. If it's really you, Jesus, tell me to walk on the water, Peter said bravely. Okay, Jesus shrugged. Come on out, Peter. The water is fine. Gulp. Peter swallowed hard. He placed one foot onto the water. Plop! It didn't go under. He tried the other foot. Plop! He was standing. He kept his eyes glued on Jesus as he took a few careful steps. He walked faster and faster, splish splash. Only his feet were getting wet. Jesus smiled at him. Peter felt the wind blowing on his face. He took his eyes off of Jesus and looked up at the dark clouds. He felt afraid. Uh-oh, his ankles were wet. Uh-oh, his knees were wet. Uh-oh, Peter was sinking. Help me, Jesus, save me, he yelled. Jesus reached out his hand and pulled Peter out of the sea. Why did you stop looking at me? Jesus asked, holding tightly to his friend. Don't you trust me? The wind stopped. They climbed into the boat full of cheering disciples. Hooray! This proves it, they said. You really are the Son of God. From that day on, the disciples were excited to tell everyone they met about the power of Jesus. The end. All right, so that is our story for today. And what I need you to get out of your kit as we talk a little bit more about our story is inside your box, you should have a stick of bubbles that looks something like this. Yours might be a different color than mine. And we're going to be blowing all kinds of bubbles. You should check with a grown-up first. If it's not okay to blow bubbles in your house, you can just pretend for now. Or if you want to take your device outside and do it out there while you listen, that's perfect. But I'll just show you a few examples. So in our story, Peter at first believed in Jesus and thought that he could walk on water. And then all of a sudden he started to kind of doubt and be afraid that it wasn't really real and that he was going to sink and it was going to be a really bad situation. And Jesus reminded him that he was right there with him and he needed to trust and believe in Jesus's power that comes from God. And so as we blow our bubbles, you can blow on like the little part, or you can make bigger bubbles and wave it around. But we're going to be making lots of different types of bubbles today in our time together. But what I want you to think about is when you have a bubble, you can see the outside of the bubble, but you can't actually see the air that's on the inside. You just kind of have to know that it's there, and that's what's keeping the bubble afloat. And so that's kind of what Peter in our story had to trust too. It's had to trust that Jesus's power was real, even when he couldn't see it. And that's something that we sometimes have to trust too in our own lives, is that we can't see God and we can't see Jesus even in our lives. We can read about stories in the Bible, but we have to trust and know that God is with us and that Jesus has incredible power even when we can't see it. Just like we have to trust that there's air inside this bubble that'll help it to blow high up into the sky. So if you have your bubbles at home, you're welcome to blow some bubbles of your own. But what we're going to do is play a couple of different games that you'll do at home with your bubbles. The first one is listed in all of the activities in your folder are listed each week. But the first one is when you go outside, blow as many bubbles as you can. And before they pop, I want you to think about one thing that you're thankful for every bubble that you see. And then say that thing out loud and run and pop that bubble. So for example, I would blow maybe 15 bubbles and I would run around and say, I'm thankful for my dog, pop. I'm thankful for my family, pop. I'm thankful for yummy food to eat, pop, pop, pop. And so you pop as many bubbles as you can, and think about as many things as you are that you're thankful for, even if they're things that you can't see right now. Like we know from our story, you can believe in things and be thankful for things even if you can't see them. So that's going to be your challenge for today. And after you do that, I want to see if you can do it even faster and faster. Think of more and more things that you're thankful for. And you could even play a second version after that. And you could blow bubbles and you could think of questions that you have for God. Because that's something that I think sometimes when we can't see God, we end up having a lot of questions for God and a lot of questions about God. So you could blow all kinds of bubbles and ask those questions to God or about God. And you might not get the answers right away. There's lots of adults who don't have all the answers they want about God or about Jesus or the Holy Spirit. But it's really fun to be able to ask out loud and wonder about the things that we can't see. So those are your bubble challenges today from your box. And all of that is written out in your folder on that sheet of paper if you need it. Go ahead, and last week we talked about our weaving that starts like this and ends like this. And it's something that you'll keep working on the whole summer. So if you're here live in a couple minutes, we'll pause our recording and we'll talk about your weaving. If you've started that, you can share your progress. And if you haven't, that's okay. You have plenty of time between now and the end of summer to finish that. And then after the recording, I want you to go ahead and stop and you'll do the rest of your faith life. So we already read our Bible story, but I want you to share highs and lows with each other and then talk about some of the things that you thought about when you were doing the bubble activity and the things that you were thankful for, even if you couldn't see them, and the ways that you can continue to trust in Jesus even when you can't see him. Share that with somebody at home. And then after you share, I want you to pray together and give thanks for Jesus and Jesus's incredible power that the disciples were so excited to share about at the end of our story. And then I want you to bless each other with the sign of the cross to remind yourselves that you are loved and blessed children of God. We'll go ahead and pause our recording now. And if you're here live, we'll go ahead and do those things together.